Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome to Take It from the Iron Woman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Iron Woman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Iron Woman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Iron Woman. We only have special guests, and today we go to Ian. Ian and I met in the ICF coaching, learning, leadership cafe. We also found out that we both were at Columbia University, so many things in common. But then we also have the sports. He's from Australia. He lives in New York, in Brooklyn. His North Star from his biography is, how can I help you? He's also a team whisperer. So I'm wondering, what can we learn from you? And first of all, welcome, Ian. Give us a little intro of what you do and where you are today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is lovely. It's great to be here. I am a co-founder of a boutique L&D and executive coaching consultancy called the Collabic, where we really support individuals as well as teams and through moments of change and moments of crisis. And then we also do scaled leadership development work. Prior to this, I was the director of leadership development at Meta. I was there for 8 years, back when it was called Facebook, pre-Cambridge Analytica, back when people really loved Facebook. And then things obviously changed a little bit with perception, but got to do some really amazing work there. Prior to that, the reason I went to Teachers College in Columbia was I got my master's in art and art education. I was actually a middle school art teacher in the New York City Department of Education for a number of years. Interestingly enough, I went and got my master's, became a teacher, realized I hated it. I was like, oh, this is awful. I am absolutely just grinding myself down to a nub. And I turned 30 and I was like, what do? I'm in massive student debt from Columbia. I have a teaching background. How do I pivot? I actually started moving into career coaching and then working with adults and then doing technical training at startups. And then that eventually led me to Facebook, where I really spread my wings in the leadership development and executive coaching spaces.
So you say you were a teacher and you hated it, and coaching and training, isn't that a way of teaching? But maybe it's the audience is a little different. I'm just curious to find out.
I had this really great clarifying conversation earlier in my career after teaching and sort of like going into this adult education. There are all these sort of disparate experiences I had on the surface, but then sort of like, what's the underlying thread across all of them? What's the derivative that sits underneath it? And it's, how do I help people develop and grow? And then how do I build systems to support it? When I think about like how I want to show up on an individual basis in one-on-ones or in team settings, those are sort of the two driving questions. Mm-hmm. I want to help you grow, and I want to help build some systems to scale capacity and capability. Yeah.
I love the teaching and the art. In my opinion, the learning and development is also creating something. So it's a different way of art. So you're combining it, but you also learn that you don't want to be a teacher. So it's in a way 360. Where you're turning back to where you started.
I love that you bring that up, because there is such creative practice in the work we do in line development and coaching and all of it. Art making is a form of communication. We're communicating now verbally, like this is sort of like the standard way that humans communicate. The sort of like physical expressions of sculpture, of painting, of mark making, etc. Those are other forms of communication that can be just as powerful. A picture is worth 1,000 words is the standard thing. That is communication. How can we help people be better communicators through different media? Because certain media expresses more eloquently what we want than others. I use the creative background actually quite a bit. And that since going into consulting, being able to build my own IP that actually pulls on more of that art making as part of the practice. I've been dabbling a little bit in like art therapy and sort of like how we can use drawing to talk through really complex relationships or dynamics within a team. What are the metaphors that we can pull on visually to talk about something that's actually feels maybe quite hot or unsafe for team members? What's interesting too is people look at that background of art education and education in general, and they often discount it. It was such an eye-opening experience when I was interviewing and trying to leave teaching because I had a lot of interviews. A lot of times I failed. I will never forget there was a VP of customer service or client services at this tech company. They needed a technical trainer. As to prep for this initial call with this VP, I read the entire manual on like how to do this certain type of database programming. Cool, I'm ready. I can go and teach this, no problem. And we got on the call and he said to me, he said, Ian, so I see you're an art teacher. What do? Do you push paint around all day?
Oh,
And yeah, it's like, ooh. And in that moment it hurt, but
yeah.
it was such a gift later on because what I discovered was, oh, there's such an unconscious bias towards the arts and towards education because people are showing up to that experience from the perspective of when they were in sixth grade and when they last experienced it. They don't understand the value. That is a very long, circuitous answer, but people undervalue Ellen development in general because they have these sort of earlier experiences that may bias them and prevent them from actually having really rich developmental experiences. Where can we actually prove folks wrong with kind of delight and sort of surprise people in a really lovely way to help them see for themselves what could be possible? I use the art background all the time to help support that. And it brings me real joy, I will say.
Well, I'm enjoying listening to you. And what comes to my mind is that people think art is like Picasso. It's painting, one thing, going to the museum. But what if we changed learning and development into strategy? Then everybody, yeah, we need strategy. It's about the messaging that has to be different because learning seems like we go to school, we become an expert, even though Amy Edmondson from Harvard University for Leadership, she says learning is more important than knowledge. We need to learn. It's about lifelong learning. The people who say, oh, do you push paint around? They might not know that art is not only painting, but it can also be technical teaching because there is a theory of art.
I remember when I got my job at X+1, which was my foray into ad tech. It was a startup and they wanted a platform trainer, someone who could teach the technology. And at that point, I'd had this experience with this guy and sort of understood unconscious bias and sort of like in that shaped sort of how I started interviewing moving forward. I started naming the art education as a strength. I'm able to take complex, abstract concepts that don't sit on paper and actually make them into concrete deliverable outcomes. And here's an example. I would teach 37th graders how to create the illusion of 3 dimensions on a 2-dimensional plane. And I would scaffold a series of lessons and be able to navigate the wild world of 7th graders over the course of many weeks to be able to, for them to feel confident and competent to actually create this illusion, which is a really hard thing to do, especially for the 7th grader mind. When I was able to start framing my experience that way, light bulbs went off and they're like, oh, we have this technology that's really hard to explain. I bet Ian could figure it out. And it's like, I sure can. Hire me. And they did. Yeah. And the rest was history.
They were only lucky to have you when you have this technical mindset in a way, and you can also relate to the people. That's what is important. You need to meet the people where they are at the moment.
Yeah, I love what you were saying earlier too about sort of like the reframe of what could be possible with the media and sort of how we might look at L&D even. And it actually, what sparked for me, it was a lesson I had in how to approach art when I was at Columbia. I was very lucky to become a teaching fellow at MoMA, of all things. One of the coolest jobs I've ever had in my life was like I got to teach K through 12 education at MoMA on a regular basis as a teaching artist. It was wonderful because we got to go into the museum with the kids and we would just camp out in front of an artwork and we would get our sketch pads out. We'd start having a conversation about what they're experiencing. And what I noticed, and it goes back to your comment about like Picasso or paint, at some point in our developmental journey, we go from this like sort of wide-eyed exploration and wonder and amazement, and we shut that off. And all of a sudden we have a docent leading us around, just teaching us the story of Picasso's Mademoiselle d'Avignon. Here's the gossip that happened at the time when he was trying to break out into Cubism or this abstract expressionism. It's like, you're hearing stories, but you're not actually engaging with the art object as an individual. So you're losing that communication and sort of like the dialogue with the art object that is so present when you're a kid. Because I'd sit down in front of a Pollock and you'd say, where's the first place your eye goes to? If you could take your finger and create movement around the painting, where would your hand go? All of a sudden you're creating this beautiful interaction. And so about that quite a bit with L&D and like how we coach and how we do this work. Where can we create that sense of exploration and wonder and back and forth versus this, I'm going to teach you everything.
Let's go into the sports world. I know you're also into running. What can we learn from you?
I love the segue. And it also just speaks to like the surprising connections that we can develop, and like that desire to connect to. It's like, how do we create community and things like that through shared activities? And for me, running was a huge component of that. So similar to you, you've done a lot more running and racing in your life than me. But like for me, especially in my early 30s, running was a huge part of my identity. I came to it through a dare of all things. I was thinking about this morning. How did I get into running? And it was actually my junior year of high school, where my friends and I, we had a study group for AP American History, and we were all talking about, well, we should try out for track. We should try out for the indoor track team. And so we dared each other. All right, we're all going to go out and try for this thing. I'm the only one who showed up of my friends. The coach looked at me and he was, I don't know, you're tall. I'm 6'4". And so he's run the high hurdles. High hurdles are awful. They're a terrible, terrible, just like torture device. They're painful. Every race, the starter gun would scare me and I would lose my footing and I'd like flip in midair and land on like my knees and on my chest as I was last at pretty much every single race. In outdoor track, I was like, hey, let's never talk about hurdles again. Could I run 800 meter? I started working out with the sprint team and the middle distance running team and loved it. I loved it. Coach never really took me seriously. It was like, I just show up, whatever. Maybe we'll give you a uniform at the meet. I learned the discipline of running and then sort of like ran on and off and then had my first taste of a half marathon when I was at Teachers College or around that time. And I was like, wow, my body did this thing. This is amazing. And also it feels terrible now. But then you run the second half marathon and then you're like, oh, I actually feel great. And then you run the third and you're like, oh, I can have a normal day after that. And then you run the fourth and you're like, oh, I can do a pub crawl and then go dancing till 4 a.m. This is like pre-30s. I was still invincible at this point. And so I had this really beautiful identity and I had a community of people. A running friend helped me get my first job in career coaching outside of teaching. He was a network connection who was a former teacher as well. And some of my closest friends even today are those runners. One of the things you and I had been talking about was like what happens when that identity changes or it doesn't serve you anymore. And one of the things that I've certainly grappled over the last, I'd say 5 to 7 years since my son has been born is this idea that I am actually not a runner anymore.
No, you're always a runner. You run behind your kid.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. He's in that phase right now too, where he loves playing tag. Every time I wake up in the morning, it's like his first thing is not, hey dad, it's hey tag, you're it. I'm just trying to get you breakfast. What are we doing? I've grappled with that because I sort of went through a grieving process where I would say I was a runner and I ran the New York City Marathon. I've run a dozen plus half marathons and I was like, I'm a runner. And I was like, I'm a runner, but I haven't run in some time and it's been a while. It became I used to be a runner and now it's like, I'm not a runner anymore.
No. But let's talk what that running is helping you in your business. What are the transferables that you can take?
Ooh, a great question. Running in general, like one, just from the experiences I had running, there's a couple key things that I found to be really helpful. One is repetitive stress disorder. So like how do we injure ourselves doing things that continue to be bad for us? The way it's often things that are unconscious, but it might be like a little lean we have to the body, or maybe we injured ourselves slightly, like we rolled our ankle or something, where we don't even realize that we're being ginger with it. But then all of a sudden we get these shooting pains and shin splints and the other leg. And it's because we've been compensating for something we didn't realize. One thing that's been really interesting is actually as about that grieving process of letting go of this running identity. This was the first time I really had to let go of an identity. Often, what I've tried to do is just hold on to as many identities as possible. I'm this thing, I'm this thing, I'm this thing. It makes me interesting. It's like, here's the collection of experiences I have. And then these are more ways that people can connect into me. We certainly bonded over running. And that was an initial way that we found common ground. One of the important lessons for me has been, how do I let go of identities that no longer serve me and the guilt that's associated with it? I found that I had a lot of guilt and shame around like, oh, I used to be a runner. I'm not a runner. If I covered and I was like, I'm a runner, but I wasn't really running, there's real guilt there.
Is it your self-inflicted guilt or somebody else?
100%. It's all me. It's all,
Why?
it's all me. Why? Because it feels fraudulent. It's not authentic. It's not true. It didn't ring true to me anymore.
Oh.
And yet I was still holding on to it because it was such a powerful part of my life.
But you still have all your medals. We always say it's not bragging if you can show that you have done it, even though if you only have done one, a few half Ironman, you have done it.
It's incredible.
What is the percentage of people who run a marathon? Now these days, everybody has it on the bucket list, but not everybody does it. Not everybody can do it.
It is a feat of discipline. It's a feat of willpower. It takes a community of support to do it too. I mean, I ran New York City. I was injured at the time. Those endorphins kicked in and magical. And then I got to mile 18 and those endorphins ran out and I was like, oh, I'm struggling. Those high five, anytime I started feeling like a tweak of pain or something, I just run over to the side and get a high five, or someone would be like, go Ian, go. So I had my name on the bib and I would just like all of a sudden start sprinting again. This can't last. I shouldn't be. I'm running too fast. But it felt so good. It is a feat. It is a feat.
What do you do these days to rejuvenate and recharge your batteries since you're not running anymore? Is there anything else that you have that you like to do? End on a positive note.
Yeah. I love the question. So one of the things, because I became really clear about identities and what I was holding on to, I've been really mindful about how my identities are in tension or in support of each other moving forward. I try to find activities that sort of are not going to pull me away or not going to be in conflict. And so for me, a lot of the joy I derive these days is of being a present dad and a present partner to my wife. I get to do that. I have my own business. I get to be this fully present, fully thoughtful human. And then it's like, how can we have these experiences that will be memories for Miles when he's an adult? And so how might we travel? How might we rethink family dinner? How might we incorporate working out in a way that is actually also a date? My wife and I, we have a gym class that we go to together on a regular basis because we get quality time, but we're also being super healthy together. There's a lot of joy in sort of thinking about what we might get to do and then going and doing it in service of these identities, in service of being healthier and sort of like living into the back half of my life. Hopefully I got another 40, 50 years kicking around. That's the hope. That's the dream.
You will. Thank you for giving us a glimpse into your life, your identities and the art, the leadership, the team whisperer. But also I wish you safe travels with your son and your wife.
Oh, thank you so much. This was such a lovely conversation. I really appreciate you having me on.
What are you taking away from this lovely conversation? Sports, art, business, leadership development, strategy, everything we touched upon. Take it from the Iron Woman. We have episodes every Monday. Come and join us, ask questions, and learn and grow with others. And Take It from the Iron Woman is also the book Global Business Coaching with Sports Parallels. Download it or get it in your local bookstore. And also like us and write a review on the platform where you are listening to this podcast. We'll see you next time, and thank you for your support. Bye-bye.
Free audio post-production.